In the name of Almighty Allah, the most gracious and merciful, may peace be on all. So, as I had already made a video on the interview regarding the senior grade of Indian Information Service, so today I want to add some more information regarding how to qualify your interview for the senior grade of Indian Information Service. So, you need to keep these things in mind. In addition to what I already said in the previous video, is that when you enter the UPSC building and you show your documents, then you are given a form which you have to fill, in which you have to mention all your credentials, your name, place from which you belong, your academic qualifications, everything, your experiences. Note here that you also have to mention your hobbies in the form, because what happens is that this very form then goes to the interview panel and then they judge you based on that. Before you enter the interview hall, the panel checks out the form which you have filled. So keep in mind that whatever you fill in the form, you should be able to defend that before the panel. Especially keep in mind, even the smallest details what you fill in the form, the question can be from those details. For example, be mindful of what you mention as your hobbies. They should really be your hobbies, then you should mention them. For example, if you mention gardening and the question comes, what are the 3 most common gardening flowers in India, and you have just mentioned it as it is, this is a hobby, and you don't know anything about that. Some people mention fish keeping or aquariums, and then the question comes, what is the subspecies of goldfish, or what is the pH of water you maintain in the aquarium in which you have kept the goldfish. And the candidate faints. He just knew that he has a 2 by 2 feet aquarium at home, and then he has some fish out in that aquarium, and the only relation between that fish and the candidate is that every 2 or 3 times a day he gives that fish something to eat, and this is his hobby. It's not like that. You should know at least the basics of fish keeping, the basics of aquariums, if you are going to mention that thing as your hobby. Some people mention interior decors and they don't have any concept of interior decoration, and when the question comes regarding that, the candidate faints and he is deemed to fail in the interview, because he has clearly mentioned something as a hobby which he doesn't know anything. It means he has lied to the panel. So how come can he become an officer? Keep note of these things. Whatever you mention in the form, that should be genuine, and you should be able to defend that. One more important thing for the interview is that when you enter the interview hall, you should keep in mind that there is a full-fledged panel of 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, or even 8 people who are going to interview you. And note and keep in mind that there's one chairman and there are other panelists. One among the panelists will be a person who is well versed in media communication in your subject. He can be a media person, he can be a person who is a professor or a teacher, academician of the subject of mass communication, journalism, media studies, communications. One will be a person who will be a professor, a teacher in the language on the basis of which you have been shortlisted for the interview. For example, when I was in the interview, there was a person who was a professor, a teacher of Urdu language, who had a deep knowledge and understanding of the language. That's why there was one person who used to ask me questions regarding Urdu language, literature of the language, as well as other aspects of the language. There will be one person who will be an administrator, being maybe an IAS officer, a bureaucrat, present bureaucrat or a former bureaucrat. He can question you regarding administrative skills, and you should be ready for that, because Indian Information Service senior grade is a professional service. But when they reach a higher level in their career, they have to become full-fledged administrators. They take charge of the offices and as far as administration is concerned. So keep in mind that there will be people from different backgrounds, be it administration, be it your own subject communication, be it the language in which you are selected. So keep in mind all those points. And there may be people who are judging you on the basis of your body language, how you talk. There will be people noting that as well, how you behave when you receive a question. What does your body language say, and how do you behave when you are being bombarded with questions? A time comes in those 15 to 30 minutes or 20 minutes of the interview when at a time 2 to 3 to 4 panelists will question you, and you have to keep in mind who is the first one who has questioned me, and you have to reply to that person first and give your full attention to that panelist. And many a times when what happens is that a candidate, he's obsessed with getting reactions. So keep in mind, whenever you are replying, many a times the panelists don't react back to your answer. They play very serious, for example. And because many a times a candidate, maybe he has a background of teaching. For example, I was a lecturer and assistant professor before joining UPSC. So what happened is, I had this thing in mind that when I used to teach something to my students, they used to say yes, okay. They used to move their head, or as per their body language, I could understand that they understood what I said. But what happened during one of my state services interview is that it was an interview for an assistant professor in my own state, J&K, that when I was talking to them, they didn't give me their reactions. So I felt like as if I said something wrong, but I knew I was right. So keep in mind this, because many a times a candidate gets a setback when he doesn't get the reaction. So there's no need to worry. If you are right, you are right. They also know you are right. So these are some of more essential tips which inshallah will help you in qualifying the senior grade of Indian Information Service, and then hopefully someday you become an Indian Information Service. Also keep in mind that qualifying any UPSC service, qualifying Indian Information Service, or any other service, you should always keep in mind that you should go ahead even after qualifying. Being a gazetted officer, that's not the end of your life. You become a gazetted officer, okay. You don't become a gazetted officer, okay. But keep on doing your struggle and try to achieve more. So with that, I hope that many of the people who watch my videos and should get, and I hope that they get selected, and best wishes for the interview. So thank you all. Allahu Akbar. Allah Hafiz.